There's another sketchy element about Emma and the attached, like, clandestine spy network that may have been trying to, like, leverage this honey trap operation. At the time of her album being mentioned in that Rolling Stone, like, little mention thing, it was like some dude was like, oh, top 10 best album of the year. It may have just been his opinion, but I was like, oh, I heard the album, it was good, but it didn't seem like top 10 of the year. And then I, like, read some Scientology correspondent, like, had Rolling Stone connections, and then, like, at the time of her album being mentioned, I was very happy for her, and we were very good friends. And I was also, like, glad that she and my recently separated partner were dating, because I was like, I don't have to feel guilty, like, he found someone. And the other thing that Emma did that was, like, classic old school, like, con artist that really points to, like, Scientology spy or, like, some sort of hired operative by, like, the Brooks or Cargman family, is she literally gave me a free session with an astrologist who was, like, a very expensive astrologist she allegedly worked for, who gave me a reading that basically told me to, like, try everything, and, like, anything I didn't feel worked for me, just let it go. And I think this was to get me in a very unfocused headspace to, like, distract me from, like, finishing my book and really going hard. And I think there's some kind of weird clandestine spy conspiracy to kind of try to leverage Emma as, like, some sort of weird badass Anna Delvey. Like, there was this other actor who I think got, like, professional incentive to befriend me, named Stacey Ann Price, and I think she was maybe part of that. I think there's, like, this weird effort to try to approach this kind of organized criminal behavior of getting hired to, like, spy on and sabotage people with restorative justice, and then, like, after these people get rewarded for just, like, blatant totalitarian stalking and spying, then, like, give them arts career leverage to get them to name names and try to create this, like, mythology around them to try to, like, make it okay that they just, like, fully, like, tried to ruin a person's life. So I just want to make sure that gets shut down. But I'm excited to, like, write a first-person confessional, like, fiction spy novel, like, as Emma DeCourcy. I think that will be really fun. Well, I don't want to say the wrong thing. In 2013, I befriended somebody named Emma who was cast in a play that I was doing, and we realized, oh my gosh, Emma, you're also, like, a singer in a band with my boyfriend Turner. We already met, like, a few months ago and just didn't realize it because you were wearing, like, a different kind of look for that singing gig. And we were like, oh my gosh, what a coincidence. And then it turns out Emma also lived, like, a 15-minute walk from me, and my boyfriend at the time. And it was crazy because we had so many things in common. Like, I grew up going to Montessori school. Emma went to Montessori school. Emma's mom was actually a Montessori teacher. Emma even said things that, like, echoed stuff I had said to people in, like, emails years ago. And I was like, wow, we're so alike. Like, it was just nice to meet a friend that I felt like such kinship with. And that summer, I actually met like someone who wound up catalyzing like a lesbian awakening, because I had grown up in a religious influence during like my adolescent years that very like rigidly defined basically heterosexuality as the only like real natural human sexuality. So I'd previously had no concept of myself as otherwise, and I'd never met anybody who catalyzed like any kind of lesbian affection or like attraction. So I didn't know what that felt like. I just felt like my sort of coldness was just like something wrong with me, which is like a classic compulsory heterosexual experience with a lot of like later blooming lesbians, and like later blooming queer people in general, I think, probably. So during that exact period of time when I had my like awakening, my boyfriend was away on like a tour for that exact month. And so I spent the year after that, like, basically completely pulling away from him and having this whole internal, like, reconfiguration, and, like, the indoctrination that I'd experienced kind of, like, dissolving in a very, like, internally excruciating way. And I, you know, eventually it was, like, the natural progression that I was, like, you know, I don't believe I'm heterosexual, and I, you know, the next thing was like for me to basically just move out. His parents owned the building, and I was paying rent to like live in the apartment in the building with him, but I, you know, I was the one who would need to move out, and it was like a gradual, like, humane process. Like, there were like a few months on my way to moving out where I didn't pay rent because I was saving up to leave. I didn't realize at the time that I was being targeted by a black ops. And as I, you know, shortly after I left, I was still friends with Emma, like very closely. I mean, I never felt like threatened or anything. I felt like earnestly like friends with this person. And I also felt really, really guilty about this relationship dissolving. And as I left, like not so long after, I would still go over to like visit the dog and kind of like, you know, gradually take my stuff. Like, it was a very slow, painful process in many ways. And like, Emma and my boyfriend had formed a band together like far earlier in the year. And at a certain point, like, she like was in a relationship with him and moved in with him, and they got married like a few years later. And I noticed that when I was going through this whole awakening, I was like thinking, oh, I can finish my book and like leave with something, like some promise of a future for myself. That process got disrupted by like weird kind of organized crime connected stalking and harassment that I kind of didn't recognize as such right away, because the book is a dark humor memoir about like a rape suspect. And I think the Church of Scientology was literally hacking my computer and spying on like a satirical essay surrounding like repressed homosexuality and Scientology. And Emma's album was collaborated on and completed by like a group of musicians with kind of like my boyfriend's social circle, and also the album was like given a mention in like Rolling Stone magazine, and like years later I came to wonder if after reading about the Church of Scientology and reading like a number of anecdotes where they hired someone to live down the street from like potential defectors that they were spying on, and the coincidence of Emma being in both of those projects with myself and my boyfriend at the same time, and the coincidence of him going away during the exact month when this person like basically executed like an expert lesbian awakening kind of like MK Ultra style honey trap. I wonder if like, you know, maybe Emma was hired by the Church of Scientology in conjunction with this other honey trap who catalyzed my lesbian awakening, and they were doing it in a way where the goal was not to like lead me down a road of self-discovery. It was to like disrupt my progress with my book. And I also don't know if the boyfriend I was with for 6 years was perhaps enlisted to spy on me because of my Scientology affiliations. There's like court trials in the UK about like undercover cops who form relationships and even have children with like, you know, people who are part of different like fringe groups. And maybe he stayed with me for a while and found that he wasn't really able to get any insider information about Scientology from me. And maybe Emma was either hired by the church and he is trying to turn her as an informant because maybe she can actually name names, or she was a dangle and she was already in a relationship with Turner as undercover law enforcement together, and she went undercover to get hired as a PI by the church to monitor their fair game tactics. But that doesn't make the experience of, you know, my lesbian awakening any less authentic from my end. But if it was in fact leveraged in a way that was kind of supposed to make me and my career into a casualty, while like leveraging Emma's album as a spy or a double agent or whatever she is, that's not okay. So if you are someone who is attached to a group who may have secret police spying on it, and you suddenly meet someone who happens to be in multiple unrelated activities with you and other people close to you, and then also happens to live down the street, you might want to consider, especially in New York City where no one bumps into each other like more than like once every 5 years, you may want to consider, is this person hired to live down the street from me and be cast in a play with me while also being in a completely separate social circle with, you know, someone I'm dating. I thought it was just like the mystical synchronicity of the universe at the time. That's another way in which my beliefs were exploited. I didn't at all question, oh, it's weird she lives only 15 minutes away in a almost empty 1-bedroom apartment. Like, it was just her. Her story was that she rented it out Airbnb because on the day that she signed for it, her boyfriend ghosted and she had to just like Airbnb it or she wouldn't be able to afford it. But it was like nearly empty except for like a fake Christmas tree and a piano and a cat. I could be wrong, but the other thing is that like maybe my boyfriend was hired by some undercover FBI sting to spy on me for Scientology, and after he realized he couldn't get any useful information, he just had Emma enter that way to like get him out of the relationship. And then Julia was simultaneously used as like a no hands cognitive warfare honey trap. But either way, it is not cool that this all was orchestrated in a way that sabotaged my career and like leveraged Emma's album. That's just not cool. Like, I'm not going to be a casualty of some spy ring leveraging like some assholes using their spy career, especially if they were using me to rack up PI hours. Like, that's doubly unacceptable. Anyway, I was really generous until all this spy stuff started kind of surfacing as a probability in like my research.